What's good, YouTube? Your boy Flames back at it again. On a barbering video. Making my video really early today. So I've been up all night, speaking with God, and I'm not gonna, speak too much on that, but all I can say is that you put your faith in Him, and He'll change your life, drastically, and just giving it all to Him, and whatever comes of it, it's His will. It's out of my control. I'm done having things in my control, putting in God's control, and He's gonna figure it out for me. And I've been up all night. I'm just restless. But I feel good, and feeling I'm gonna crash and burn later. So I don't know if I want to just get this out the way, while I'm still awake and, feeling rejuvenated. Um, I don't want to end up falling asleep at 4 p.m. and then waking up at 1 a.m. and then now I gotta make a video. Oh wait, I overslept my videos. Yeah. Um, and I've definitely, been like hour late on videos. I've had stuff going on a couple times and feel bad about that. So yeah, we're getting this one about the way. Um, I'll be reading out of the book of Esther, chapters 2 and 3. Without further ado, let's go right to it. Esther, chosen queen. After these things, when the anger of King Ahasuerus had abated, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been done and what had been decreed against what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's young men who attended him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought out for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom to gather all the beautiful young virgins to the harem and Susa, the citadel, under custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women. Let their cosmetics be given them, and let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This pleased the king, and he did so. Now there was a Jew in Susa, the citadel, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives, carried away with Jeconiah king of Judah, who Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon had carried away. He was bringing up Hadassah, that is Esther, the daughter of his uncle, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman had a beautiful figure and was lovely to look at, and when her father and her mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So when the king's order and his edict were proclaimed, and when many young women were gathered in Susa, the citadel, in custody of Haggai, Esther also was taken into the king's palace and put in custody of Haggai, who had charge of the women. And the young woman pleased him and won his favor, and he quickly provided her with cosmetics and her portion of food, and with 7 chosen young women from the king's palace, and advanced her and her young woman to the best place of the harem. Esther had not made known her people or kindred, for Mordecai had commanded her not to make it known. And every day Mordecai walked in front of the court to the harem to learn how Esther was and what was happening to her. Now when the turn came from each young woman to go in to King Ahasuerus, after being 12 months under the regulations for the woman, since this was the regular period for their beautifying, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and ointments for women. When the young woman went in when the young woman went into the king in this way, she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening she would go in. In the morning she would return to the second harem in custody of the Shahashgaz, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the concubines. She would not go into the king again. unless the king delighted in her, and she was summoned by name. When the turn came from Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his own daughter, to go into the king, she asked for nothing except what Haggai the king's eunuch, who had charge of the woman, advised. Now Esther was winning favor in the eyes of all who saw her. When Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which was in the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign, the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king gave a great feast for all his officials and servants. It was Esther's feast. He also granted a remission of taxes to the provinces and gave gifts with royal generosity. Mordecai discovers a plot. Now when the virgins were gathered together in the second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Esther had not made known her kindred or her people as Mordecai had commanded her, for Esther obeyed Mordecai just as when she was brought up by him. In those days, as Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, became angry and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. And this came to the knowledge of Mordecai, and he told it to Queen Esther, and Esther told the king in the name of Mordecai. When the affair was investigated and found to be so, the men were both hanged on the gallows, and it was recorded in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. Alright, that's the end of chapter 2. Let's get right to chapter 3. Haman plots against the Jews. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him, and all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?" And when they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. They told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury, but he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout all the kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, and the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast a pur, that is, they cast lots, before Haman day after day, and they cast it month after month until the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There are certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people. They do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, but they put it into the king's treasuries." So the king took a signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, the people also. Do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps, and to the governors of all the provinces, and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instruction to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, 13th day of the 12th month, which is in the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation to all the peoples to be ready that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by the order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa the citadel. And the king and Haman sat down to drink. The city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Okay, that is it for kind of a cliffhanger a little bit, but that's it for today's video. We're gonna learn more about what happens next in the chapters to come. Um, you know, um, Esther's faith probably, and her influence and her heritage is probably going to come forth and kind of expose this whole situation probably, but I don't know. I haven't read this book. I'm kind of foreshadowing based off the chapter names of the next chapters, but um, I really appreciate y'all for watching. As always, God bless you guys, and yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Love y'all. God bless you. Big things on the way. Love y'all. Catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.